Hi everyone, my name's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. I know it is pretty late. Watch my last video just where I explain why I've been slacking on content lately. Better late than never. Not only have I been slacking on content, I've been slacking on reading in general. So this list is kind of short, but we will get through it. Also, it just started pouring outside, so if you can hear the rain, little ambiance for you. First up in June, I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was my patron pick for the month of June. This was selected for me by Alex. If you want to help choose my TBR every month, there is a link down below to join my Patreon if you're interested. This book was short. I listened to the audiobook and I actually really enjoyed it. It's my first Cormac McCarthy book, and I found it very profound and very moving. It's like a post-apocalyptic. It gave kind of the same vibes as Parable of the Sower a little bit. It felt kind of Stephen King-like, with there being like a father and a son in a post-apocalyptic world. It felt like a very kind of Stephen King premise. But it was very good. I did tear up at the end. I found it very well crafted, well written. Put Cormac McCarthy on the map for me. So excited to read more of his books. I actually am reading 2 more in July. Really enjoyed this book. Next up, I read Pines by Blake Crouch. This is my first Blake Crouch book as well. And this was one of the 12 books recommended by 12 booktubers that I was supposed to read, I believe, in May, and I didn't get to. And this book took me by surprise. I didn't know much about it going into it, but it's kind of like it felt almost like it was a thriller while being like I don't know how to describe it. It was very good. It was a thriller. It was scary. It was taking turns that I did not see coming at all. So overall, I did really enjoy this one, and I am excited to pick up more of this series and ultimately more of Blake Crouch in general. Next up, my June pick for 12 books recommended by 12 booktubers, and that is The 10,000 Doors of January. This was recommended to me by Bookborn, whose channel I will link down below. Pines was recommended to me by Theo from Rekindled Reader, whose channel I will also link down below. 10,000 Doors of January is written by Alex E. Harrow, who is one of my new favorite authors. I really have enjoyed a lot of her work, and this one was really good. Alex E. Harrow does a really good job of writing stories that feel very whimsical while still being dark and high stakes and being fantastical. Overall, this book was really fun. It's about a girl named January who has seen these doors and can go through these doors to different worlds, and she knows a few other kids that can do this, and it's just kind of their journey through life of trying to find their doors. I really found this book to be unique and interesting while also being moving, and I really loved all the characters. This was a really good book. Next up, I read A Wreck of Witches by Nia Quinn. This is one of my books for SPFBO. I am on Team Bookborn for this competition. I'm reading 6 self-published fantasy books and will be recommending 1 for Bookborn to read. And this was the first one I read, and I really enjoyed it. It's about a witch who lives in like a haunted house, but the house is like more like a sentient house. It's not very, it's not scary or spooky or malevolent or anything. It's very cute. And they are dealing with an escaped magic user who is in their town kind of wreaking havoc and all this stuff, and she has to band together with other people in her community to stop this. I had a lot of fun with this one. It was also very whimsical, very fun, it felt very charming. It gave like Halloween movie vibes, but like the wholesome ones, not the scary ones. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. It was an easy read. It was well written. There was definitely some pacing issues I found, but overall the book was a success for me. Next up, I read A Shadow in Summer by Daniel Abraham. This is the first book in the Long Price Quartet. I read this with Alex and Kyle. I did like this book. I found that not a whole lot happens. Like, the scope of the plot is so small. I found it hard following some of the characters and stuff, I think because I was listening to it on audio, and the names are kind of unique and some of them sound very similar. So I had a hard time following who was who, and then a few weeks ago I messaged Alex and Kyle and I was like, I cannot even remember what happened in this book. So while I found it enjoyable, it ultimately wasn't a favorite by any means. I'm still going to continue on the series. I've heard that it gets better and better, and it's got a lot of setup. So I have hope. I'm still interested in the series, but this first one was kind of just meh for me. It was good, not great. Next up was a DNF, and that was Under Heaven by Guy Gavriel Kay. I tried listening to this on audio while I was like in the middle of my slump, and it was just not working for me. I was slumping really hard, and this was not the book to get me out of it. So I DNF'd it pretty early on, still interested in it, still want to come back to it later. It was just not what I was needing at the time. Next up, I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is one of her new releases. It is a literary fiction, and I found it enthralling. I loved it so much. It's about a woman who basically steals the story of one of her author friends after her author friend dies, and she finds the manuscript. She tries to pass herself off as having Asian descent because the story is about Chinese workers during World War II, I believe. So she's trying to like pass herself off as being of Asian descent, and it's just her slow descent into madness, it seems like. You kind of get this very dark, twisted view, and like R.F. Kuang does such a good job of nuance in terms of like situations. So she really highlights how you start to hear some of these arguments and you're like, maybe they have a point, but then like you see the impact and you see what's going on and you see how this all unravels and you're like, no, they were wrong. But she does such a good job of like showing how complex these situations are and how hard it is to balance all of it, I guess. Next up, I read Proven Guilty by Jim Butcher. This is book 8 in the Dresden Files. I really enjoyed this one. They are growing on me as I go further. This is still like a 4-star read. I definitely wouldn't say this was 5-star. There was some parts that I just didn't really enjoy. I still just don't like Harry at all. I find him very annoying. I just like the story and I like the concepts and everything. But I don't like Harry, so reading books from his perspective can be hard at times. His humor's just unfunny. But I did really like the premise of this one, and I thought that Harry was a little more bearable this time. So they are growing on me as I go further. Still not a favorite by any means, but I've heard that once I get to Changes, I think it's Changes. Once I get to one of these, my mind's gonna be blown. So let's hope I get there. Last but not least, I read Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is book 4. This is book 4 in the Red Rising saga. This is the first of the second series, and I did really enjoy this one. The second series has gotten a lot darker. I recently just finished Dark Age yesterday, and Iron Gold was very interesting to kind of see where our characters are from the first series after a big time jump, and also like their children and everything. So I find that Pierce Brown does a really good job of showing the evolution of society and what changes and how things change and how dark humanity gets, how bad humanity can be. So overall, I really enjoyed this. Spoiler alert, I like Dark Age a lot better. It's my favorite so far, but Iron Gold was still also very good. And that is all the books I read in June. Mostly all of those were TBR books. I didn't really stray outside my TBR because I was in a slump, so I was reading what I had to read. So July is already shaping. July is probably going to be less quantity, but better quality because I'm reading a bunch of chunkers. I am already wanting to read more this month, and I've obviously wanted to make content more. So overall, it was a good month. It was just slow. I had a rough time reading, and I still think I read some good books in there. Thank you guys for watching. If you could please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below what your favorite book in June was, if you can remember, since it is already more than halfway through July. If you really like my content, please hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post new content. If you really like my content, you can join my Patreon, link down below, to get some unique benefits. As always, your support means the world to me, and until next time, thank you guys.